Morning. Good morning. Please join me in the singing of our national anthem. Thank you. And please join me in a moment of private contemplation. Thank you. Council, is there anyone that needs to excuse themselves early from the meeting today? And not seeing any, I'll call on our clerk for the roll call.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. We have all members in attendance today with the exception of Warden Clark sent regrets, Councillor Sandu sent regrets, Councillor Brian Smith sent regrets with alternate Councillor Joe Belanger in attendance, and regrets as well from Councillor Michael Smith with alternate Councillor Henry Sonder in attendance. We have a quorum.
Thank you. I will now call on Councillor Dolan for the approval of the agenda.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor MacDonald that the agenda for October the 10th, 2023 meeting of Council be approved.
Any comments or questions on that? Seeing none, all in favor? And that has carried. Council, is there any disclosures of pecuniary interest today? And seeing none, we have no deputations or presentations in our consent agenda. I will turn to Councillor Burkett.
Thank you. Good morning. Through you, Deputy Warden. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Norcross, that the Council Communications and Proclamations September 26, 2023 to October the 9th, 2023 have been given due to consideration be received.
Thank you, Council. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that has carried as well. And we'll now go back over to Councillor Dolan for our confirmation of Council minutes.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Van Stavern that following Council meeting minutes be confirmed and adopted, and Committee of the Whole reports be confirmed. County Council minutes September 26, 2023, Committee of the Whole report September 26, 2023, Committee of the Whole confidential report September 26, 2023.
Thank you, Councillor Dolan. Any comments or questions? And seeing none, all in favor? And that has carried. And I will now turn to Councillor Cox.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Evans that the performance management recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report dated September 26, 2023 be approved, including the confidential items.
Thank you. Comments or questions, Council? Seeing none, all in favor? And that has carried. And we'll now turn to Councillor Leduc.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor MacDonald, that the Human Services recommendations contained within the Committee of Whole report dated September 26, 2023 be approved.
Thank you, Councillor Leduc. Comments or questions, Council? Seeing none. All in favor? And that has carried. And back over to Councillor Dolan.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Measures that the corporate services recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report dated September 26, 2023 be approved.
Comments or questions? All in favor? And that has carried. We're now moving on to our governance committee. Can I have a mover and seconder for that report? I have Councillor Fryer and Councillor Snell. That the governance committee recommendations contained within the governance report dated September 28th, 2023 be approved. Is there any comments or questions on that? I'm seeing no comments and questions. All in favor? And that has carried. And thank you, Council. With that, we have Councillor Cotton that has been appointed to our Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. We have Councillor Rawson, who has been appointed to the RVH, and we have Don Allen for our Planning Advisory Committee. So congratulations and thank you for that. We are moving on to presentations and consideration. We have none. Motions to which notice has been given, we have none. And notices of motion then have been outlined. And at this time, I mover and seconder for our closed session. Oh, actually, we don't have to. Sorry, first. If there's anyone that wishes to move into closed. I'm not seeing that at this time. Now I would need a mover and seconder for that. I have Councillor Fowler and Councillor Measures that the confidential report 2023-279 appoint under the Municipal Act, under the authority of the Municipal Act in section 239B and D for personal matters about an identifiable individual, including the municipal or local boards or employees or labor relations for negotiations, that the direction in camera contained within the confidential item CO 2023-279 regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal and local board employees and labor relations or employee negotiations, be voted upon and approved in accordance with section 2396B of the Municipal Act. All those in favor? And that has carried. I will now move to Councillor Norcross for consideration of the bills.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, Deputy Warden Coghlan, that bills numbers 7029-23, 7030-23, 7031-23, 7032-23, 7033-23, 7034-23, and 7035-23 be enacted as bylaws of the County of Simcoe. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Burkett.
Thank you, Councillor Norcross. Any questions or comments, Council? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that is carried. Council, moving on to announcements. Are there any announcements from the floor this morning? Seeing none, I'll go back again to Councillor Norcross for the confirmation bylaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McDonald, that bill number 7036-23 be enacted as a bylaw of the County of Simcoe.
Thank you. All those in favor? That has carried. And our adjournment, I need a mover and seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Greenlaw, seconded by Councillor Locks, that the October 10th, 2023 meeting of County Council be adjourned at 9:09. Oh, sorry, we have Councillor Measures.
Yes, Your Deputy Worship. Just before this House adjourns, I think this is appropriate at this time to acknowledge that one of the bylaws that this Council has just passed is the bylaw to appoint our new clerk. And so I ask the House to acknowledge Jonathan McGill as our new clerk.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And all those in favor of the adjournment? And we are adjourned. Thank you. Right. We'll just take a quick moment here and ask the city reps to join us. Thank you. And I'll ask for our clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. So in addition to those that were in attendance at council, we have a number of the city reps that have joined us. Aurelia Councillor Coppola is in attendance. Aurelia Councillor Durnford is in attendance. Barrie Councillor Hamilton is in attendance. Aurelia Mayor McIsaac is currently absent. Barrie Councillor Nagusi is present. Barrie Mayor Nuttall is currently absent. And Barrie Councillor Rietma is present. We have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. And at this time, I will call upon Councillor Dolan for the approval of the agenda.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Evans that the agenda for the October 10th, 2023 meeting of Committee of the Whole be approved.
Thank you. Councillor, are there any questions or comments on the minutes? Or sorry, on the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor? And that has carried. And is there disclosure of pecuniary interest this morning? Seeing none, we'll move on. And at this time, I will ask for Councillor Leduc.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Welcome, City Reps. We are into item 5, the Human Services Consent Agenda. So I have item 5.1, letter dated September 8th from the Town of Midland regarding the catch and release, Justice of Ontario, and 5.2 CCW 2023-251, 2023 child care worker and early childhood education or appreciation day. So, anyone want any of these pulled? Seeing, pardon? There's 5.3 there? No, 5.3 is a presentation. Oh, shoot, yeah, we have 5.3. Sorry, including 5.3. We have a presentation for 5.3 right now. Okay, so sorry, I will turn it over to General Manager Mina.
Thank you, Chair Leduc. I'm just going to call down staff to present. This presentation is to introduce our open data strategy, our first 2 dashboards. This has been a 4-month endeavor since the team has come together, and this is the first demonstration of the dashboard that we'd like to show Council, and with the intent to go live in a few days, like hopefully by Friday, it'll be live on our websites. So I'd like to introduce our 2 managers that have been working collectively on this. This is an interdivisional project across the county. So Manager Chris Dance from our IT team and Manager Jonathan Katz from our business intelligence team in our social services division are the 2 that have been leading this work.
Morning, everyone. Thanks, Nina. So this morning we're going to present an overview of our infrastructure of our business intelligence environment and what we've been doing to help our colleagues in the social community services division to present some more data to the public. So I'm just going to quick start off just on what IT's been doing to help support this initiative in modernizing our data platform. So we're leveraging our current investment in our Microsoft platform. So that's using Office and our security investments in Microsoft. We've been now piggybacking off that investment with our data initiatives. So what does that mean? That gives us a more modern data platform to support dashboards, analytics through a product called Power BI. Also, this also will introduce some capabilities for the organization for machine learning as well as artificial intelligence and bring those in to analyze data within the county, helping support data-driven decisions. In addition, this will also complement our investment that we have with our GIS and mapping platform that we already have established and have open to the public. As well as we want to make sure that we have a platform that we can be transparent to the public and provide more data sets to the public as well as internal departments and divisions to support data-driven decisions. Keeping in mind while we publish the data, we want to make sure we're looking at the data, making sure that we're controlling the security and the privacy of the data underlying. So we're putting in extra measures and security frameworks in place to support the underlying data structures. when we release it to the public. As well as we're going to be opening a new public portal, as Mina mentioned, or later on this week, which will allow us to publish the dashboards that we're going to showcase in a couple minutes. So part of this initiative to support the shelter dashboards, we have a platform that we've implemented a couple years ago called HIFIS. This is from the federal government that we've implemented across the county as well as our external shelter providers. The benefit of this platform from a data perspective allows us to have one system that the shelters all utilize, which will allow for standardized processes, which help automate processes as well as data feeds into a single central point and dashboard, as well as providing a lot of data accuracy across the platform. Also, this now allows us to support more informed decisions, as well as we're shifting the informed decisions to letting the data that we're representing on these reports and dashboards that we're going to showcase to tell more stories to help the organization run more efficiently. So I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Jonathan, to showcase the dashboards.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jonathan, and I'd like to present you in the next 5 minutes a few reports that we would like to publicly make it available. So the first one would show, this is an emergency shelter and motel voucher program data that is being refreshed on a daily basis. It presents the geographic location in the county where shelters are managed by our service providers. And it shows the stats based on the previous night. So it presents the snapshot of this shelter system and the voucher system that we have across the county on a daily basis. The system is automatically refreshed, as my colleague stated. And the report is quite dynamic, allowing the end user or the public to look into see and explore what are the trends and what's happening in our county. So currently what you see on the screen is a snapshot from yesterday. And it presents that there were 226 people who were served in the shelter system. And it shows also that there were 224 beds in the system. So there was almost over 100% capacity or utilization, occupancy within our system. There is also a breakdown of the compensation of the families within the shelter system, showing that there were 26 families, and out of those there were a few that were youth and adults, 26 and 200 that were using our shelter system. In addition, there is also a narrative at the very bottom of the screen for the end users to understand a summary of the statistics that shows that there were 226 individuals, as I stated, and it shows what were the trends. As I stated, there are like some interactivity within the dashboard, meaning that if we would like to focus on the Barrie area, we can just click on the Barrie area. And all the numbers would be associated or customized for the Barrie area. So within Barrie, we had last night 132 people who were in the shelter, and there were 125 the bed capacity, meaning that there was an occupancy of over 105%. So there is ability to explore based on the geographic location. And also there is ability to look into previous dates by selecting a date of an interest from the past year, and just click and see the snapshot of what was the utilization and the system capacity at that time. So this is one dashboard that is going to be presented. The other one has which is presented on the screen now, is a little bit more comprehensive from a system view. It shows statistic on a monthly basis, not on a daily basis. And the screen is divided into two, the inflow and the outflow. The shelter system inflow in September, so the people who came to the system were 306. And those who left the system in September were 301. And there are specific reasons or destination of where the people were living, and so the vast majority returned to the street. And all of those definitions are well complement within a glossary that is complement to this report. So in case of any definition that you would require to further understand, there is a well documented information about it. In addition, there is ability also to slice and dice this report. For example, if we look into the composition of the people living situation, there is chronically homelessness. We can just click on this category, and all the numbers, including what were their length of stay in the shelters and how many were there in the system, all can be further explored by just navigating by clicking on the various visuals that you see on the report. In addition, we have an additional 3 screens that focus on the most vulnerable population. For example, we divided the population that come to the shelter to 3 main groups, the children, youth, and adults. And there is some comparison of the performance, so how many people were served in the past 3 months versus the last 3 months of the last year. And there is also ability to slice by the gender or indigenous status, lone spousal families, single families, and veterans. So this would allow to further explore the trends and understanding the specific groups that are being served. In terms of bed capacity screen, this shows the capacity or the occupancy in the past year. Once again, there is ability to slice per specific month. And if you are interested in focusing on one provider, there is ability just to click on the provider, and it will show what is the occupancy for the specific provider. So as you can see, in the past year, some providers have reached their capacity over 100%. Some may be underutilized due to various reasons. The last screen that we have is the historical trends. So similarly to the previous screen, you are able to look by different categories and how they align month by month. So if there are a decrease or increase, for example, if we look into specific age group and see what's the differentiation in terms of the volumes. And also there's ability to look into the status in Canada, meaning that we added additional subcategories that can even further look into specific groups such as refugees or students that are coming, or those who are on work visa, or differentiation between those who were born in Canada and people who came outside of Canada. In addition, if you scroll down, there is ability to look into the service provider. So everything is clickable in a way that there is ability just to click on the service provider and see the composition of the specific category that has been selected. We presented this dashboard to all the service providers to get their consultation. We had also focus group within the county for staff who are not familiar with the shelter system and staff who are familiar with the shelter system. So this work has been an iterative work of many weeks that enable us to come to this design. Once again, we do acknowledge that there may be changes, and it's a learning curve by presenting also to various groups that we would enhance and modify, and perhaps adding additional data sets as required. But this is a very comprehensive dashboard that is going to be made available thanks to the IT department that graciously enable our existing platform to publish this interactive dashboard. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. Thank you very much. A wonderful living document. Any questions? I got Councillor Gordon first, and then Mayor Nuttall.
Thank you very much. Fantastic work. Like, this is great. And the fact that it's going to be public facing, even better. I got a couple questions. One that just came up on this slide here. I noticed in the drop-down box for status in Canada that unknown or not asked was one of the options. And fair enough. That's, you know, either that's in the data set or that's there because there's an absence of data. I'm just wondering, you know, here's a perfect example where the data, we can identify gaps in data quality in that we're either, you know, failing to fill what should be a mandatory question box, or people just are choosing not to provide. I'd assume in this case, refused is not on there. So, you know, if it's unknown or not asked, there's a data gap and an opportunity for us to, you know, try and identify, well, what's the source of this data gap? Is it all coming from one of the shelters? Is it one staffer who just doesn't like to ask that question? Or so it's critical, of course, garbage in, garbage out. So have you already noticed when you're analyzing the data that there are gaps, and now you're able to take active steps to try and, you know, correct that?
Through the chair, yeah, I can answer a little bit of that. If you can go back to the first one. Yeah, the beauty of having dashboards is you get to identify anomalies, right? And this is something we didn't have just a few months ago holistically as a system. So yes, if you go to the night shelter one, you'll see that the ups and downs you see in the arrows there that tell you what happened from the night before is a good way to just start to identify things. So when we started this, the first time we launched it and saw it inside, there was a drop of 22 beds over a night. That's an anomaly. So this is where you can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, did you enter your data? This is a little bit of the learning of getting it accurate. We have a comprehensive complementary approach to the data set, and that's freeing up our staff now and our program supervisors to work closely with the shelters and ensure that the data entry is on point. You know, Jonathan's team of research assistants or research analysts are the ones that have been working very closely with the data entry points. We funded the shelter systems and the homelessness support providers with data positions so that they have someone dedicated to do this work and have backups as well. So we anticipate that accuracy will climb over time. Things about unknown or refused, things like that, you have to remember a lot of these categories are straight from the HIFIS system. So there is a bit of rigidness to what we can add and complement into it. Every time we add a category or a point of data that's not within HIFIS, now they're doing their entries through two different ways. So we're trying to be mindful of that and find other solutions that collect their side data, like that's not captured in HIFIS, automatically as well, so that we have live data. So yeah, we're excited about the idea of understanding anomalies now, being able to point towards capacity issues, trying to be able to adapt on a nightly basis to the system's needs. So, you know, these are great tools to have as a service manager so that you can make better informed decisions on the service delivery.
And if I may add, every 3 months, the compliance is being reviewed by HIFIS, and there are very strict statistical rules in terms of whether we are meeting the compliance. So there is a margin of error, and we have been in compliance. So we have some quality measurement in place to ensure that even if there is not 100% capturing of the data, we can definitely work with the service provider to ensure that we have processing in place and enhance their understanding and knowledge of the importance of entering the data for various reasons. The HIFIS data that is being entered to the shelter system is also being consumed by other stakeholders, such as the access coordinator, who are able to navigate the clients to other solutions. So the more information that there is in the system, it is better effective for taking care of the people. So there is a full understanding, not just by us as the service managers, but also by the service providers.
Great question. Follow up?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that probably the biggest thing, rather than looking at this retrospectively, is the ability to have predictive analysis of the data to really start to budget and forecast future needs based on data rather than more, emotional or sifting through Excel sheets. So, bravo to everybody involved in this. This is a fantastic tool.
Thank you. Perfect. Mayor Nuttall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And first of all, this is incredible to echo the former comments in terms of actually being able to have data, to be able to analyze, et cetera. I won't go too far into that. I guess my some pretty direct questions that affect Barrie. So when we look at the city of Barrie having 166 total clients that are using the meal or the motel or the emergency shelter program, that's the extent of everything?
Through the chair, no. So to be very clear, this is the overnight bed and motel voucher program for the shelter system. We're working on the outreach and the street data pieces of the people that we serve who choose not to come inside or cannot come inside or remain outside or encamped. Those data dashboards are the next two that we're building as we speak. Interestingly enough, HIFIS doesn't give you a lot of tools on those ones, so we're building that one from scratch, and we're trying to get all the different providers and outreach worker agencies to get kind of similar data points and start to really quantify the demographic, which is very important to us. So, but again, it would be a very similar dashboard that shows how many times the connectivity has happened, what type of interaction. Those are the type of things we need, and for the same reasons, just so we know what we're dealing with.
There was another slide that had, or there's two other slides. One that was first showed with this one right here, 810 people actively homeless in the previous 3 months. And then if you go to, I think maybe it was comparison, if you could go to that one. It said there was 1,500 people that were experiencing homelessness. I think it was in the last 12 months. Is that correct?
Yeah, through the chair. What you're seeing is two different data points. Over the last 3 months, unique individuals that were experiencing homelessness versus over the last year, unique individuals experiencing homelessness. Doesn't mean that just if you go to the inflow, outflow monthly, you have to see it as the difference between people being served versus unique individuals overall served over a period of time. So these are the parts of the nuances of understanding it when you're looking to compare year to year versus month to month, unique individuals versus all individuals. So like for the people actively homeless in the previous 3 months, those would be unique individuals over the 810 over the last 3 months being served, meaning that they could have come in and out of our system for a day, so they're captured in that count. It doesn't mean that every night there's 810 people and it's the same 810 people.
So when we released the data previously said there was about 700 people who were homeless in Simcoe County. Where does that compare to these data points?
So through the chair, that number is a point in time, one night, one count. That's the 710. We do that every 2 years. Part of our federal funding requires us to do that. This is you being able to see that trend over a series of months, over many nights. While a point of time count is a useful tool to understand, because you go out there and you assess everybody you can see. So you not only get that number, but you get to assess their level of needs. This approach is about service. It's about our system and how many people we serve daily. And then you amalgamate those numbers over a 3-period or a quarter, a business quarter of time, and then you take a look and see, you start doing your trend analysis. And it's really here that the demographic trends are really important to us. And if you scroll a little bit down, Jonathan, you'll see here the active client living situation is probably one of our most important data points, because it starts to tell us the chronic homelessness numbers. And if you recall, I previously shared, this is our measure. We want to see if that number is going up or down and what the housing outcomes are. So if you look at the green bars there on the outflow, really it's those two bottom bars. The last bar, housed independent. That's the number we're really important to us, because that's your true permanent outflow and not the reoccurring back into homelessness inflow. So that's the number that we use as a target for how we're doing and what the performance is.
So we've had a 7% success rate. Is that, like, if you take 301 individuals outflow in September, 7% of them have gone into housing. There's a higher amount that disagree with the rules than go into housing. There's a higher amount that we don't know what happened to them that go into housing. There's a higher amount that are other. I'm not sure what that is. And there's 5.5 times more that return to the street.
Through the chair, yeah, that's correct. Over the last 3 months, that's the averages. Now, the whereabouts unknown could also be housing outcomes, and that you find them over time. Those are the indicators right now. Like, we know affordability is a challenge, and we're working on part of our 10-point strategy on how to create more affordability. Stronger outreach is a big part of that. And then again, it's like working with health providers and healthcare providers for those that are in the discharge to street or discharge for other reasons. Those are often times where they need better health attention. So sometimes they're discharged into hospital or the justice system and returned back. So these are the items that let us know how to invest in the response. So yeah, that's and to be honest with you, the 7% housing outcome is about 2% above the provincial and federal averages, which is around 5%. So yeah, it is a daunting number, but certainly something that we now know for sure.
I'll turn to our CEO for a response also.
Yeah, we're actually really excited about this on a number of fronts. One, it's a platform that we already had and was created in-house by some of our brilliant staff here, but also an opportunity to hold some accountability to our providers and the investments made. Because I can tell you, when we first started to collect the data, it was very clear that there were gaps and anomalies in the data. So with real-time data from HIFIS, it allows us to audit as well. So when you have real-time data, you know exactly how many people are in a shelter. You can actually go in and check and make sure and audit. So I think your point, Councillor Gordon's a great one. When you have data, you can make really good decisions. But we got to make sure the data is correct. So, and it takes anybody that does statistical analysis knows it takes some time to ensure that the gaps are out of the data. And then you have a period of time where you can make decisions. And once we start to trend seasonal data, we can really start to make good decisions and make investments where it matters. So we're really kind of excited about that. Real-time data is great, but you don't want to make decisions at a snapshot in time. You want to look at trends and analysis to make the proper investments.
Okay, and I'll turn it back to Member Nuttall for a further follow-up.
That's all for me. Thanks so much.
I got you next. That's it? Okay. Mayor, Councillor Dolan, please.
Thank you. On that one slide that you were just on, could you give me an example of what other could be?
Yes. For example, disease or people who were going to corrections or other. It were about 30 categories. I have all the 30 categories outlined. But there are fractions. We were saying 2 or 3 people within each category, so it was impossible just to put everything at once. But we listed in our dictionary all those 30 categories. I just remember the disease. It just stand out. That were a few of those categories that all were aggregated to the other category.
All right. Okay, Member Hamilton.
Thank you, and I'll just echo again the sentiments. Phenomenal work. I think this data is so powerful and so meaningful, and aside from having this dashboard, I think it's what we're going to do with the data that's going to be of critical importance. Just that slide again that had the inflow and outflow. I think the outflow was returning to streets 115 individuals. Is that broken down? Can that be broken down per shelter as well? So, for example, Barry Busby would know of their inflow this percentage is ending up back in the streets. Because as you said, the CAO, to use this as an accountability tool, I think is going to be instrumental, right? If we have shelters that just have people coming in, coming out, and we're not actually providing them with the services they need, whether it's housing or mental health or addiction, I mean, that's a huge gap that I think we need to tackle. So I'd just love to hear a bit more about how we're actually going to dive into that and what data each individual shelter is going to receive.
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor, for the question. So just a couple of points of clarity on the inflow and outflow. You're absolutely correct. The data is very useful for us now. This isn't all the data. So these are just the first two dashboards of many. So HIFIS does capture needs. Our common assessment tool captures direct needs per person, per location. So we actually have very deeper dive data, but for dashboards that face the public, these are kind of broad strokes to like have everyone understand the system and how it serves the people who use the system. In terms of understanding the needs and then customizing and making decisions, that's our whole goal. Like our whole goal was we need the information to make the decisions, and we need to see the trends over time to be able to measure how we're doing, and then hold everybody, including ourselves, accountable for those outcomes. So that's really the position we're starting with. So I would say that this would be the first building block of many. In terms of who, like where, we do have, if you scroll down, I think you can see we can slice things down to in the comparison ones or the historical trends. You can start seeing it by location and by provider. And we have those layers and filters. And another thing to share is that these data points are also being shared on a daily basis to all of our administrative counterparts across all the towns and separated cities. So everyone is kind of getting a very detailed breakdown in order to, again, inform everybody of how things are going.
Sorry, great work again. And then just back to the report that accompanied this dashboard here. You just mentioned at the time of the report writing that staff was still working with Barrie-based homeless shelters to finalize the additional shelter space needed for winter capacity. Funding begins October 15th, and knowing I think it's October 10th. Is there any further update just in terms of when the report was written and today?
Through the chair, I'm going to ask our Director of Homelessness, Wendy, to help answer that question.
Thanks very much, Mina, and through the chair to Councillor Hamilton. I'm pleased to share that we're really confident that we're prepared for the winter season. We've got more options available in the system than we have ever had before. Those include our warming centres, our alternate spaces activation strategy, which I will explain. That system itself, that strategy, has capacity for 103 individuals in the system, above and beyond the 224 funded homeless shelter beds. We also have additional overflow beds, to your point, in the city of Barrie, using the Rose Street modular units. That particular operation will provide 35 to 40 additional overflow beds this winter. After consultation with our system providers, that was identified as the ideal number, in addition to using our data from last winter, where there was an average of 35 individuals per night that were accessing that particular site. We also have that site that will be operating 18 hours a day from 6 p.m. until noon the following day. That will be augmented through warming center services in the city of Barrie, particularly at this moment, that will run from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily in a different site. There will also be integrated providers that will be working alongside the shelter system, health, mental health, addiction, housing-focused supports. And to Mina's point earlier, certainly this is one of our very first winters with our on-site safety teams, and we are completing assessments as we speak for similar teams in other communities, releasing an RFP shortly for an expansion of that particular service to our other municipalities. Additionally, and I'll just provide you the full scope of information. It would be helpful for, I'm sure, everyone in the room. We have additional new initiatives, which include current work to develop a mobile response to increase access to shelter, as well as provide transportation to shelter and warming centers, and act as a mobile warming response. That is in the development phase as we speak, so more to come on that, hoping to have that in place in the second part of the winter. We're also looking at partnerships to further expand the system of services and supports, and certainly with respect to the modular units in the City of Barrie, we are, again, there is discussion taking place for future planned use. And to Mayor Nuttall's question a few moments ago with respect to the housing outcomes being 7%, one of the real success stories for that modular structure occurred this past summer, where a rapid rehousing program operated during the summer months. We had 14 individuals that were housed in a 4-month period from that service. The agency is currently working with additional 3 right now who are temporarily housed to secure permanent housing. Each time those housing outcomes occur, of course, it opens capacity within the shelter system for those that are living unhoused. So that's a real positive success story. So certainly we're looking at that as best practices and lessons learned for, potential for future use of the modular in the City of Barrie, as well as we're looking at acquisitions of additional modular units for use elsewhere in the county. The date, because I know that's probably a burning question, the date that the modular will open on Rose Street will be November the 15th. It will run through until April 30th. Warming begins in the City of Barrie on the 31st of October. That is the 8 to 6 service, and that will also run through to the end of April. And our alternate spaces activation strategy will kick in as of October 15th. So there will be 103 additional spaces for individuals to come in from the cold between October 15th and when those additional beds open at Rose Street as well. There are also warming centers that have been funded in the southern part of Simcoe County in Bradford, West Gwillimbury. Those services will open October 16th. And then also in the City of Orillia, those services will open November 15th. And again, through our partnership with Lighthouse, there are also alternate spaces available within that setting. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that update. That was exceptional. General Manager, you have anything to add? Okay, no? We're good? Okay. So far I have, and thank you again for that update. I have Councillor Fowler next. I have Councillor Bell. Do I have anybody else? Oh, and Councillor Cipolla after. Councillor Fowler.
Thank you. Through the chair to the General Manager. There, you mentioned that this dashboard is public-facing, yet the gentleman who's doing the presentation stated there there was a great deal of aggregate. When it comes down to things like mental health and addiction, which is a very major player in this sort of event, will the County Council be made aware of the numbers, or will it be provided at a separate time? Or because like when we make decisions, when it comes down to things like budgetary items, we need to know where we're directing the money and if it can go better into one coffer than opposed to another.
Through the chair, thank you for the question, Councillor. The answer is yes. Again, these 2 dashboards are the first 2. I anticipate we'll have one specific to need-based assessments. So as we assess people through the system and start to quantify their level of needs, I think an acuity and capacity requirement and support requirement dashboard will be provided that kind of tell the story of the needs of those using the system and those experiencing homelessness and those who are at risk of becoming homeless. And then that will help define what are the investments that are needed to help narrowly tailor the services to those needs. In terms of the dashboard's level of detail, I think the public-facing one is to keep it as understandable as possible for the general user, and this is why we did the focus groups across the county to test it out a bit and see what people found interesting or understandable. But there's different levels. I think our administrative teams and staff teams have a different level of access that gives them a little bit more detail. But for the public-facing ones, I think this is the level of detail you'd see. And then, of course, you have to navigate through privacy rights and a lot of other things to make sure that you're protecting individual information that we do have.
Thank you. So I've got now Councillor Bell.
Great, thank you. I guess first is a question of clarification and the next is just a comment, but who all will have access to this data? I would assume that managers of each of the different agencies would have this, as well as team leaders or supervisors. So that would answer that. I just seen, Mina was shaking her head. The other piece of this is if you're looking at historical trends, one of the things, I was part of the first crisis unit in Barrie, with Canadian Mental Health Association. Weather has a big impact on our needs. Something that we're not tracking is that. So when you look at year over year, is there any way that we can look at that? Because it could be very different based on weather and what we're seeing and understanding the tipping point when the needs are really starting to skyrocket.
Through the chair, yes, seasonal analysis and trend analysis, as CAO Aikens had shared, is the key here. With a lot of this dashboard, the comparators, you can do it by year, and then you can drill down on some parts of it right down to the months. So you can pick the winter months or the summer months to see that. And then, you know, over time, as the data gets richer, you'll be able to see annually what happens in January or what happens in March. When do we activate warming? When do we activate cooling? To get a little bit more exact. In the past, we've been operating on best practices across Ontario, but now we can do it specific to the county and skip right down to the specifics of a municipality or town.
Yeah, great questions. Thank you. Member Cipolla, please.
Thank you. Excellent presentation and great information. But is there any way that this presentation is available to us in a way? Because as we get younger, we tend to forget the immediate stuff that you've told us. So I would really appreciate it if it could be sent to us, Mr. Chair.
Mm-hmm. Yep. General Manager?
Yes, we can make arrangements for presentations and maybe even have one recorded that walk through the usability and share it out with everyone.
Okay, great. And I have now Councillor Van Stavern.
Thank you very much. Quick question in regards, when you further populate this, as a small community, we are getting a lot of pressure on homelessness and affordable housing and everything else. I would ask that you include, if possible, where these people are coming from, in particular, like Clearview. We don't have warming centers. We do not have housing. We see them go to Collingwood or Barrie, for instance. It'd be nice to know if we have a need that we can react to it as well. So I ask that be included when you start further populating. Thank you.
Yes, great question. That's the great thing about this data is that they can build on this. It's a new system, and we can actually build and provide better data as we move and drill down into it. So, excellent presentation. Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you, General Manager Fayez-Baguette. Thank you very much for that information. That was great questioning. We got some great answers out of that. Thank you for the update on the status of what we're doing with our warming centers. Any further questions or comments on any of the items? We've got 5.1, 5.2, and 5.3. No, I need a mover and a seconder to accept this consent agenda. Moved by Councillor Locke, seconded by Councillor Fryer, that the following consent items having been given due consideration be received. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to Human Services, Children's Services. 6.1, CCW 2023-264, updated provincial funding allocation and directed growth plan. Questions or concerns with this one? Seeing none, need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Fowler. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We are into item 7, Human Services, other matters for consideration. Any other matters for consideration? Seeing none, I have 7.1, Communities Simcoe County Housing Corporation Board draft minutes, September 26, 2023. Moved by, I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Mayor Nuttall, seconded by Councillor McDonald, that the minutes of the Simcoe County Housing Corporation Board dated September 26, 2023 be received. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And I'm into 7.2 Affordable Housing Advisory Committee report. Questions or concerns with this one? Question? No? Okay. Okay, mover and seconder, please. Moved by Councillor McClellan, seconded by Councillor Measures. The recommendation contained within the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee report dated October 3rd, 2023 be approved. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Turn it back to you, Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Chair Leduc. At this time, I will turn back over to Chair Dolan.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Really heavy agenda for corporate services today. We have one consent item, which is the letter regarding the Town of Wasaga Beach Illegal Car Rally Provincial Task Force.
No corporate services.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You get nothing today.
I get nothing?
Nothing.
Okay.
Sorry.
You can have that one.
I'll share. And seeing no other matters for consideration, I will now turn to Chair Cox.
Okay, we are now on 9.1 under the consent agenda. The recommendation, I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Fowler, second by Councillor Rawson. Do we have any questions, comments? Councillor Snow.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to put forward a motion in regards to 9.1, the letter dated September 28, 2023 from the Town of Wasaga Beach. I'd like to see that a letter supporting the Town of Wasaga Beach resolution regarding illegal car rallies, provincial task force, be sent to senior levels of government.
Does staff have any? No, you okay? Okay. I need a seconder. Mover and a seconder. I'll have Councillor Snell move, seconded by Councillor McDonald. Any questions? All in favor? Any questions? Sorry. Councillor Gordon.
Thanks. Just on the letter, it looks like it was already sent with a wide distribution list under CC. So I mean, if we're sending it again without, putting our letterhead on it, what are we doing here? We're just kind of mail bombing the. It's symbolic. Like, is the proposal that the County of Simcoe, adopt this stance and put it on a letterhead, and it comes from this body? If that's the case, then maybe we need to change the wording of the motion.
Okay. Mark, did you want to speak to that? Oh, sorry, Claude. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. So the motion reads that a letter supporting the Town of Wasaga Beach resolution be sent to senior levels of government. So that's exactly what would happen, is a letter would go on County of Simcoe letterhead supporting the resolution from the Town of Wasaga Beach. And it would be sent to the same senior levels of government that the Wasaga Beach resolution was sent to.
Is that okay? Okay. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have 10.1, CCW 2023-280, post-secondary educational. Shut it off. Sorry. CCW 203, education capital funding. I think that Mark Eakin, the CAO, would like to introduce and provide an overview of this report.
Yeah,
So
thank you, Chair Cox. And I did want to provide some context to this. So not mandated or legislated investments in post-secondary education are something that County Council believed was a very wise investment to ensure that there were opportunities for our residents and others to develop, as well as for our employers to find employees with the proper training. Over the years, County Council, in their wisdom, has supported quite a number of undertakings through Georgian College and more recently Lakehead University. These include like the Henry Bernick Center, the Health and Wellness Center at the campus in Barrie, as well as some of their other infrastructure. We've also funded, I think, the Georgian College campuses in Collingwood and Midland as well. Our most recent commitment came out of requests from Georgian and Lakehead for a total of $15 million, and at the time, 2013 Council committed a $1.5 million annual contribution in the budget to cover those $15 million worth of asks. So as you recall, in the spring we had presentations from both George and Lakehead University. They did a really good job, I think, outlining what the positive economic impact is of post-secondary education in the region, as well as highlighting the opportunities locally for students to achieve post-secondary education standing. So they've done a really good job. So the asks, if you recall, Georgian College indicated that they were working on some skilled trades improvements in some of their skilled trade labs, and we're looking for a one-time $1.5 million investment to help them pull those together. Skilled trades, obviously very important. We're hearing from our employers the importance of trying to find skilled trades individuals to round out their workforce. The request from Lakehead had to do with, and again, the requests are included in the schedules, but was with respect to a new building on the Aurelia campus to round out educational classroom opportunities and some other infrastructure there. And the ask was $15 million over a $35 million project. Both Lakehead and Georgian also intimated additional projects coming down the pipe over the next 5 to 10 years for increasing their capacity to provide these types of things. So there's a number of decisions that come to County Council. Again, it's not a mandated or a legislated service, so you do have the opportunity to deny the request and conclude these investments. I think, though, County Council historically, as well as the presentations from the post-secondary educational facilities, indicate that there's great payback on investment for post-secondary education capital programming. And we wanted, similar to the hospitals, County Council's always found it important not to wade into the funding of operations, but keep the investments towards capital and building the infrastructure to make it possible. So the decisions you have in front of you are one, and there's a couple of financing options. So one, do you want to support Georgian College's request for $1.5 million for skilled trades? If you do, there is an option to fund that immediately from the reserve. So we started the $15 million commitment in 2013, and it was concluded in 2022. So or 2021. So the monies in 2022 did go into reserve. The reserve currently has $1.7 million, which is that $1.5 million commitment, plus some ancillary interest that has been gained from investment. So you could cover that Georgian capital through what's in reserve. If you were to consider the request of Lakehead, first, they asked for $15 million. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to give them $15 million. But if you'd like to do that, or if you'd like to pick another number, we could fund that from continuing the annual contributions. So the current budget, the 2023 budget, did include $1.5 million as well. And unless we get direction otherwise, we can modify that. The only question beyond that, though, is do we want to increase that $1.5 to $2 million, given that we would have $16.5 million in commitments, and there's more coming, as was intimated by Georgian and Lakehead, potentially. So now that said, as you know, the 2024 budget is a little challenged, as is the 2025 budget. You recall from our long-term strategic plan, our operating surpluses coming out of COVID are quite challenged, given the services that you provide to your residents through the county. So we could maintain the $1.5 million commitment without having a modification or a requirement change to the budget. And you could increase it if you chose to increase it in 2025 or 2026, depending on what your level of comfort is, or leave it the way it is and just extend out your contributions. So sorry for the long-winded setup, but I thought it important to not only share with you the history of why these investments are being made, but some of your financial options.
Okay, any questions or comments? Councillor Duke and then Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the update, CEO Mark Aikens. I appreciate that, and it clarified it now, because I was wondering when we read the report, it talked about $15 million for Georgian, but it's $1.5 million for Georgian, which I'm fully in support of when it comes to skilled trades. Definitely want to support that, and we have the funding for that. I'm certainly in support of the Lakehead also, and I'm for the $15 million. I think it's a great investment when we deal with our youth, and these are two outstanding universities and colleges in Simcoe County that are growing and getting bigger and bigger, and I want to support that, and I think it's great for our region to be able to educate our youth in this area. So the only difference is that I'm good with the $1.5 million moving forward, staying with that $1.5 million yearly. When you think about it, we're doing about $5 million in investments throughout the county when it comes to hospital, hospice, and education, so quite satisfied with that. Georgian's ask is for about 47.5% of that build, which is quite a large amount from us, but I think it's worthwhile doing it over a long-term plan. I think that's what we need to do, is set the table for a long-term plan. So I'm absolutely in favor of supporting these two educational institutions. I think they're well valued for our community and our Simcoe County. I just would like to keep it at $1.5 million as it stands right now. So that's where I sit, but I sit in support of both requests for those funding applications. So I don't know if there's further comments, but we'll wait for options.
Okay, Councillor Bell.
Great, thank you. I think I echo that as well, as 1.5 seems reasonable. If it did go to 2, I'd like Georgian College to come back with some kind of a plan as to how we keep these trades in our local markets, because one of the things we see is they're going back to the bigger city centers, and we've educated them, and that's our investment, is we need them back in our area.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I will read the... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to comment. I agree with CEO Aikens' comment. I love capital projects. And the concern I have, and I want to echo it, especially in time of budget constraints, I don't want to, and I would agree with everybody's comment here, I don't want Georgian College to come back and blindside us with what we want. So if we're going to commit, I agree with keeping the money in the budget point of view, but we need to know where we stand. I would also make the comment in this time of constraints when we're hitting 47% of the cost of a project, I question whether that's our responsibility. So whether we should be looking at restricting it ultimately, I think it's important we support them, but at what extent we'll discuss that further. Thank you.
CEO Aiken.
Certainly, County Council has the option to consider future asks as they arrive. The only thing you're being asked today is to endorse commitments to the 2 asks that are in front of you, the 1.5 and the 15.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Do we have one?
Madam Chair, if I could, so what we're looking for, I guess, is direction on Georgian College, and if you'd like to fund it out of reserve, and direction on Lakehead University's ask, and how you would like to fund that going forward. I assume it would be through the annual commitments until the commitment is achieved.
Okay, I have a motion here, and I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Duke, second by Councillor Norris, that item CCW 2023-280 dated October 10th, 2023 regarding post-secondary educational capital funding be received, and that the request from Georgian College in the amount of $1.5 million towards the capital renovations of the skilled trades facility be supported with funding being utilized from the post-secondary capital reserve, and that the request from Lakehead University in the amount of $15 million towards the further development of the Aurelia campus facilities be supported with the funding being utilized from the annual budget contributions towards post-secondary capital supports until the commitment is achieved. Questions? Yes, Councillor Cabral.
Thank you, Chair. Just a comment, and not everybody who goes to Georgian College or Lakehead is from within Simcoe County's municipalities. And I don't know whether or not municipalities outside of Simcoe County are contributing in any way, shape, or form to these two educational institutions. One of the things that came to mind when that presentation was made to me is that maybe there's opportunity here to have some kind of dialogue with Georgian College in Lakehead so that those residents within Simcoe County who are basically being taxed twice, right, with us putting this motion forward, if there might be opportunity to have some kind of a dialogue with both of these educational institutions to help offset potentially or have some kind of a credit applied to those students that are coming from Simcoe County municipalities and taking courses in particularly the skilled trades section so that the residents themselves are getting some kind of opportunity as a result of Simcoe County supporting both of these educational institutions. I don't know if that's something that could be done, but I certainly would like to see something like that go forward. It's a bit of a well that the educational institutions do come back and you know, when you're given something, you do come back because, you know, you've already had opportunity prior to. So I just would really, and I hope everyone else here kind of agrees with this, that since we are supporting them, that there should be something in there for the residents from within Simcoe County who do attend either one of those institutions. So that's just my only comment here, and thank you.
CEO Aiken, would you like to speak to that?
And through the chair, and thank you. They're great comments, and they are discussions that take place regularly between our economic development folks, and you may recall from previous reports, we have direct relationships with respect to our own employment. So we do work with them for training for paramedic services, nurses, and RPNs and PSWs. So those discussions do take place at a staff level. Part of the request that we make to them when we do make a commitment is we ask them to come in on an annual basis and make a presentation to council as to what's going on at the colleges, and that's an opportunity, obviously, to hit the nail on those. In terms of trending, Lakehead has done a really good job filling a gap, but before there was post-secondary opportunities in this area, our statistics on residents with post-secondary education were fairly low in the region. We're seeing a vast improvement on that, given the opportunities that existed, not only through Lakehead, but the post-secondary partnerships with Georgian. So we're starting to see some positive trending in that regard. Georgian has and you probably noticed, anybody that's been on the campus, has focused some of their attention on international students. The good news is a number of those students are staying and being employed in Simcoe County. But to your point, and this is when I get excited about dashboards and things like that, how can we start to track that type of data so you know that these investments are what they are? I don't doubt that the economic impact statements that were presented to you by Lakehead and Georgian are accurate. I do believe post-secondary education institutions are a pretty critical part of the fabric of any community. But I totally agree with your comments, and we will continue to ensure that there's that benefit to the community through these investments.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Anderson, and then Councillor Duke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess the only concern I have is the length of the commitment for Lakehead, and thinking that Georgian may come back in a few years and ask for additional funding for another project, or if there's any other post-secondary education asks in the future. Because the concern is, you know, we're talking about $15 million and we're committing the $1.5 million every year to that project. So if there is another ask, where's the money going to come from other than having to increase that threshold to a higher number? So I do have a concern with committing all of the funding, thinking that we should hold some back as part to continue a reserve fund.
Well, go ahead, CEO Macon.
Yeah, it's a great question as well, and it's something that's been contemplated through previous methods of support. But rather than maintain a reserve, the thought from council was always give the commitment out to the commitments that are being made. If and I understand why both institutions are hesitant to talk too far ahead, because obviously they have to go through some strategic planning and work with their own boards of directors in terms of what types of investments might be made. But in the future, County Council always, when you consider a potential future ask, will have the opportunity to see if is the 1.5 million enough, should it be increased at that time, or did you want to share those commitments a little bit differently to meet the requests? So there is some flexibility down the road, and experience with previous commitments has shown us that. As long as they have the commitment, then they can count on that commitment. They haven't been as fussy about the payment schedule as long as it's because they can bridge finance as long as they have a commitment.
Thank you very much. Councillor Duke.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to just start by saying I don't spend money very easily when it comes to giving it away like that. But when I look back, and I really looked at, and I think COA can actually address it quite well. When you look back at Lakehead's proposal to us and their presentation they did, $3.56 billion of GDP in the Ontario economy, $400 million right here in 2023, right here in the region. So there's great return on investment when it comes to these institutions. I come from the University of Toronto, worked down there for 25 years, so I've seen the growth of the University of Toronto when it went from 50,000 to 100,000 students now, and the GDP for the City of Toronto is astronomical. So there's great return on investment when we do this. We bring in these youth. They actually become employees that we need in the service sector, where it's a minimum wage sector, and they provide employment opportunities. I know that the investments are in Orillia and Barrie, but in the end, they will service the region, and hopefully that'll return for us in long term. The big one is that these are young. This is a young campus in Orillia and a very young campus here in Barrie, and eventually the alumnus will support the growth of those universities and colleges. They will come back and pay that, and the burden will come off of the county, and hopefully, or we'll always be a player there, but not as large when it comes down to it. And hopefully, it becomes the alumnus that actually fund these. I know the University of Toronto funds about 5 major projects a year in the range of $80 to $100 million in buildings. So, and that's always funded by the alumnus. So I look forward to these universities catching on. We've seen the growth already in both these areas. The University and College, they've exponentially grown in students. And so I see that being a big one for us in the future, and hopefully that'll pay dividends in the long term. So that's why I say the investment today is for the investment in the future. So I support it because I think it's a great one, and we'll have other requests from them eventually down the road, but we'll be able to address them when it comes to that. So that's why I spoke and supported early. Thanks.
Councillor Dolan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure to who I want to direct this question. I'm not sure if it's even a fair question for this House and perhaps for the college itself. But my understanding is that the international students don't have a cap on tuition, and that they pay significantly higher tuition. And actually part of the business plan for the colleges and the universities is to attract more international students in order to help offset the balance sheet. And I guess my concern going forward with global insecurities, I know we have a large population of Indian students that attend Georgian, and with the Canada-India relationship right now, I wonder about any issues going forward financially for both Georgian and Lakehead.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. And certainly that's been a strategy. And there was a comment made earlier. Universities don't receive any funding from either the federal or provincial government, or very rarely, certainly not consistent funding. And colleges do receive some, but not a lot. So their requirements, as Councillor Leduc pointed out, are to leverage their base in terms of their alumni, but also leverage their funding through their tuition. So certainly a discussion we can have with Georgian. But one of the things I know Georgian also states, yes, they're interested in foreign students because of the increase in tuition, but they do have a strategy to make sure that they have some retention and that these folks end up working and living in the communities that Georgian serves.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Next, 11.1, Audit and Finance Committee report. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Snell, seconded by Councillor Bell, that the recommendations contained within the Audit and Finance Committee report dated September 27th, 2023 be approved. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Cox. We have no closed sessions, so that brings us to an adjournment. I just need a mover and seconder for adjournment, please. I have Councillor Fowler and Councillor McDonald that the October 10th, 2023 meeting of the Committee of the Whole be adjourned at 10:21. All those in favor? And that has carried.